Hey, coffee time. So lock engagement. What does that mean? There's a ton of videos out there that talk about lockup and percentages and all that stuff. And the way I understand it, and this is me, the way I understand it is that you have the thickness of the blade and then the actual lockup into the tang of the blade dictates the percentage of lockup. So if you have a 100 thou stock thickness, which is what this is, and you get right in there, you can see that it's about 50 to 60% lockup. That's what that means. It doesn't mean when the lock bar travels, or the lock bar insert travels over, if there's 100% on that. That doesn't matter because it's actually only engaging a little fraction, or should engage a little fraction of that lock bar insert. That's the way I understand it. Now, a lot of people will think that, early lockup or late lockup, that lockup dictates the quality of a knife, which is not true at all. Plenty of knives that are higher caliber or considered higher caliber have significantly more lockup, Chris Reeve knives. And then you have some that are, again, arguably a higher caliber that have less lockup. So like a Roosevelt. And then there's in between. So you'll get 20, 30, 40, 50% lockup. That's what that means. The amount of lockup does not dictate quality unless obviously it travels, the lock bar travels 100% over the tang and is now over on the other side, and you have no room for wear. Now with standard steel lock inserts, so this is ABL, a standard steel lock insert, those are replaceable, and the insert on these knives are designed to wear. They're lower HRC than the said steel. So the steel will not wear on the blade before the lock insert or the steel in the lock insert will wear. Lower wear resistance on ABL, lower HRC on the ABL, whereas the crew wear is a higher degree of wear resistance and higher HRC. Again, the amount of travel does not dictate the quality. So 20% lockup does not mean the knife is better. It's all how things are designed, how things are manufactured, and how things are perceived, I guess. Some people may think that, some people may not. But the truth is that quality does not dictate, or the travel does not dictate quality. Same thing with having washers or bearings. Just because the knife doesn't drop shut does not dictate quality. So if we're on bearings, I would expect some degree of drop shuttiness, but again, does not dictate quality. Washers, on the other hand, have a degree of wear period, and you can get washer knives to drop shut. Now, out of the box, if that happens, there may be some aspects taken into consideration, like how well their flatness is, how well the flatness of the washers are they custom washers, things of that nature. Are the washers polished? A bunch of things to take in consideration. Just coming out and saying, automatically it needs to be drop shutty no matter what. If it's not drop shutty, it's not a good knife. That's hogwash. So I just want to dispel that rumor as well. But yeah, the where the lock interfaces on the tang, it's a little chunk of or a little fraction of that lock bar insert, and I'll show you in this close-up. All right, let's see if we can pick that up. So if you look at that black dot right there, that's about where your lockup is going to be interfacing on the tang of the blade. Right at that little spot. So if your lock bar insert is 70 thou or 100 thou, it's not really going to matter where it lands on that, because it should always land in that little corner right there. And this, I mean, again, talking about quality and all that, that's where a lot of quality knives land. There's a few, makers that have been in the game longer than I have that have talked about this and where it should land and all that stuff. So, I mean, this is an undisputed, fact that guys have that lockup right there. And just to show you how all of this looks, so your blade is 100 thou, and if you split it in half, that would be 50%, because 50% of 100 is 50, and then goes on from there. 7 degree at this angle, and then at your tang, you have your interface, but your insert has a rake angle, so you'd have to figure out a good rake angle to get things to land properly. You don't want this to be super flat on here, and you don't want it to be too far back to where you're not engaging that little corner of that tang, or that insert rather. So here it all is. All right, so now that that's out of the way, talk about lockup, how it works. This is just a 101 too, so you can really get in the weeds in a lot of this stuff. Rake angle on the lock insert, angle on the tang, how those interact with each other, things of that nature. When you're designing a knife and you're making it, you do have to take those into consideration. Typically when you design, or if some people design a knife and then send it over to get done by a manufacturer, the manufacturer will take care of all those little minute details, and that's the process you're really paying for. You're really paying for the process in the product. You're not paying for the design as so much the process. So I take that into consideration. Now to dispel all of this sewing, beef or whatever, it's not beef. The dude hit me up for a knife, said, hey, can I buy a knife, get it reviewed? And this is before I was doing I did one or two lottos. Hey, can I buy a knife? I want to review it. I didn't answer him because I'm not going to just sell a knife to a reviewer and have them review it. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. Your ego gets in the way when you become a reviewer, and that's just the nature of the game, I guess. So fast forward, I'm not a super religious person, but I do want a degree of respect. So he hit me up on Easter Sunday. Again, I'm gonna ignore that because it's the same thing. Hey, I want to buy a knife. Hey, I want to get in front of everyone else. Hey, blah blah blah. If that was not his intention, then sorry. Okay. So then fast forward, had a lottery, and he entered with his YouTube handle, and then entered with his business handle, his knife business handle, and then entered with his private account. So let's remove the business handle because clearly people have more than one person has access to that. So let's remove that. So you still entered with two handles. And all of my posts for lotteries have, the disclaimer on all that stuff. Don't enter with two accounts. If you are caught entering with two accounts, you will be blocked. So that's what happened. Plain and simple, blocked. The other, I guess, beef that people are considering a beef, which isn't at all, is the designs. Like, people forget when a lot of this stuff happens. So like with the whole thing with Slicey Dicey, like people forget about all that stuff after a while. I don't forget. Some other people don't forget. And now we have this influx of just designers and YouTubers and all this other stuff, which is great. It's great to have differing opinions and differing designs and new designs and all that. It's really cool to see. However, you design a knife and it looks almost identical to other knives that are very successful or are already made, then I have an issue with that. And this isn't like people brought these critiques to my attention. I didn't go seek out these critiques and try to, bash his brand or anything like that. There are a lot of guys that spend countless hours designing and retweaking and sending things to friends, and then their friends saying, oh, it kind of looks like this, you might want to change this, sort of thing. And they do. And then they get them made, and they're received very well. Then there's people that will design, make a few tweaks, and then send it out, and then people will say, hey, it looks just like this design, and then those types of people will be like, well, screw the haters, I don't care, we're not changing it, blah, blah, blah. And that's fine too. But you have to also take criticism. I take criticism every day, every time I send a knife out, every time I do a design, I also take criticism. So whatever the criticism may be, and if you're accused of stealing a design and you didn't steal the design, then say, hey, we're gonna make changes. We'll tweak a few changes so it doesn't look so much like this knife. If you look at the birch tree blade on his Instagram post, and you look at the other model that looks identical to that blade, they look identical. Now, the grind may be different or whatever, but still, the overall aesthetic is identical. I don't care what the rest of it looks like. That looks identical. So maybe tweak it a little bit. I don't know. And then I don't even know what the models are called, but then the one that looks like the Slim Utility. It looks identical to the Slim Utility with regard to, the clip being different and all that stuff. And I know that they posted it up, and I know people said something about it, and they disregarded it. Okay? That's where I have an issue. I mean, those guys spend hours designing knives and getting them made, regardless if they made them themselves or not, and then other people come in and just do a similar, I'm going to say similar, okay? Because I don't want people to get all upset and say, oh, I didn't steal it, blah, 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 whatever. Very similar. And you can't argue that, well, there's no room for designing. If there's no room for designing, then get out of it, okay? There's a ton of room in folder design, a ton. There are several guys that I've talked to that get things made overseas that have very original designs, okay? So without sounding like a jerk, okay, why don't you go back and look at all your designs and tweak them? And then when you make new designs, why don't you try to be original, okay? Start with an original design. Don't cherry pick from all these other makers and then put it into a knife and, pass it off, okay? It's a challenge to you. Being a designer is a challenge. It's a challenge to exercise your brain and exercise your skills. And if you don't know much about knives, then maybe learn a thing or two about knives. It's not hard. It's just difficult. If you don't want to put in the work, then don't expect the same reward as everyone else. I'm sorry. I'm not going to sit here and hold your hand and babysit people and all that stuff. We're all grown adults here. And if you are accused of stealing a design, then maybe take a look at it and change it. Okay? There are plenty of designs that I have in a notebook that look very almost identical to other designs, and I have not released them because I don't want people to think that I stole a design, because I didn't. I came up with it in my brain, and I took aesthetics from other designs that I like, and then it looks like another design. So please spare me with all the, oh, he's attacking him, blah, blah, blah. He's just doing it, and he's jealous and all that. I'm jealous? I'm jealous? Yep. All of this was because of my hard work, okay? That's why. And I'm not riding a hype train, because hype trains are not real. They're not real. So Oz invented hype trains, apparently. That's what you're saying. Not Bob Loveless, that just made a design and everyone loved it so much that people were willing to shell out, tens of thousands of dollars for his design. Same thing with Chris Reeve. Chris Reeve must have not invented a hype train. The Arius, that must not be a hype train. Okay? So again, spare me with the hype train BS, because it's not real. The only success that I've had from this is from me releasing it through my Instagram. Nobody reviewed it at Blade Show. Nobody reviewed it on their YouTube channel prior to me releasing it. So spare me, okay? Now, if you're gonna continue on with your designs, whatever, I wish you the best of luck. I wish no ill will on your business or you as a human being or whatever people may think, okay? So if you're going to get into design and building a brand, just be original a little bit. So your next design, I think it's going to be like what, a slip joint or something like that, and it has a tiny innovation in it. That kind of stuff. Be innovative, be original. That's all anyone's asking. They're not asking for just another copy of whatever and it's made overseas. That people don't want that. And if you think you know your customer base more than I do, then you're wrong. I'm the guy that sits here and gets feedback from people and finds out what they actually want, where it's just thrown on paper and then sent out, and like, yeah, you get some prototypes made, but like minor adjustments. That's about it. Like you actually have to sit and think about and look and make sure that you're not stepping on anyone else's toes, okay? I'm saying this as your colleague, okay? We're in the same business, all right? So if you're gonna keep going back and forth with me, I'm gonna keep going back and forth with you. I have no issue with that. I'm not gonna keep my mouth shut, okay? It's not gonna happen. So whatever you think you know about knives, I may not know more, or I may know more. But I can guarantee you that a lot of people that interact with me know way more about knives than both of us, because they've been in it for far longer than we have. These are customers. And just because a new design comes out, it must be better and blah, blah, blah. Again, if you're getting it made overseas, you're paying for, the product is the process. It's not the design. The design is a vehicle for that process, okay? So if Riot makes it, or Best Tech makes it, or Kubi makes it, or whomever makes it, it's still going to be one of their knives. It's not going to be your knife anymore. It's going to be your design, and you might have a cool design. But it's not going to be your knife. Not until you make it, okay? I just want to be clear on that. People seem to think that just because a new design comes out, it's going to be different in the feel and, you know, the lockup and all that stuff, and it's not. They're just going to make it the same way, like they've made hundreds of knives before yours. It's just business, okay? So spare me with all the BS. Spare me with I'm being too aggressive or attacking and all that. You know what? If you can't take criticism, then get out of the game, man. Sorry. Okay? That's simple as that. I get beat down every day by people. You're no different. So, don't care. Also, to your fans, thank you. Thank you for all the negative comments. I appreciate that. That's just fuel to my fire. So, next design. It's a challenge to you, okay? Next design, be original. Don't look at anything else. Think of an animal or something like that. Design it from an animal, okay? And come in with a fresh head, all right? Because I'm not the only one that thinks that those designs look exactly like other designs. There's a lot of people that think that. And your fan base only, agrees with you because they like you. People tend to agree with people they like, right? It's the nature of the beast. So I'm sorry I hurt your feelings, okay? Sincerely, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. Just try better, okay? That's all. And as for lockup, check out the video. Wanted to hit all that stuff first and clear the air and all this stuff. There's reasons why people aren't interacting anymore. It's of their it's of their own accord. And if they're forgetful about the situations and terms and all that, then I'm sorry, those are the terms. And that's the situation. There's no beef. I don't care. Because there's 900 of you that are just going to keep doing this over and over and over until the end of time. There's only going to be one me. There's only going to be one Chris Reeve. There's only going to be one, Roosevelt or Oz Machine Company. But making new designs and getting them made by Best Tech and whomever, there's going to be thousands. So it's the nature of the beast, man. It's just facts. Sorry. Well, wish you best of luck. If you guys have any other questions about, the inner workings of all this stuff, hit me up, DM me on Instagram. Turn the comments off because I just don't have time to look at comments. So I'll let you just watch this video and you can think about it. Okay? Have a good day. Stay hydrated.